The millionaire never planned to come home early that afternoon. His business meetings usually kept him late, but something told him to leave sooner than usual. As he parked his car in the driveway and stepped into his luxurious home, the sound of muffled voices drew his attention. He moved quietly, curious about what could be happening when he wasn't supposed to be around. What he saw next froze him in place. His wife, the woman he had trusted and shared his life with, was standing in the middle of the living room with anger written all over her face. Right in front of her stood the maid's young daughter, a sweet little girl who had often been shy but always polite whenever he greeted her. To his horror, his wife was lashing out, showing a side of herself he had never seen before. In that moment, the millionaire's heart raced with shock and confusion. Why would his wife treat an innocent child this way? Questions flooded his mind. Was this the first time? Or had this been happening whenever he wasn't home? The scene unfolding before him was not just cruel, it was deeply unsettling, and it shattered the picture-perfect image he had always believed about his marriage. The maid herself was nowhere to be seen, and the young girl looked frightened. Glancing toward the door as if silently hoping someone would rescue her, the millionaire knew he had to act. But what he chose to do next would leave everyone speechless. The millionaire stood silently for a moment, trying to process what he had just seen. His wife had always been admired in social circles, graceful, charming, the perfect hostess. To the outside world, she was the image of elegance. But behind closed doors, he was now seeing something very different. The maid had worked for their family for years, always reliable and humble. Her daughter often came along after school, sitting quietly in the corner with her books. She never caused trouble, never asked for much, and everyone in the house knew she was a gentle soul. That made what he witnessed even harder to believe. He replayed countless memories in his mind. How many times had he been away on business trips while his wife stayed home? How often had the maid's daughter been left alone in this house with her? There were too many gaps, too many unanswered questions. A chill ran through him as he realized this might not be an isolated moment. The little girl's wide eyes told a story of their own, one she couldn't put into words. She looked both startled and accustomed to fear, as though this wasn't the first time she had faced it. The millionaire felt his stomach tighten. The silence between them grew heavier, almost unbearable. His wife's voice then cut through the air, sharp and defensive, as if she had already prepared an excuse. But deep down, he knew excuses wouldn't be enough. Something darker was hiding beneath the surface, and the truth was only beginning to reveal itself. The millionaire's eyes shifted between his wife and the child, his mind racing with questions he couldn't yet ask. His wife, noticing his presence fully now, straightened herself and forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're home early," she said, her tone strained, as though she had been caught in something she couldn't explain away. The girl, meanwhile, clutched the hem of her dress, her small hands trembling as she stared at the floor. Too scared to speak, he thought of the maid, a woman who had shown nothing but loyalty to their family. She worked tirelessly, often staying late to keep the house spotless, never complaining about long hours. For her, this job wasn't just work, it was survival. And her daughter, innocent and vulnerable, was simply caught in the middle of this household's power. The millionaire began to wonder, was his wife's treatment of the girl born of anger, jealousy, or something deeper? Whispers of past moments started to echo in his head. The subtle tension he'd noticed between his wife and the maid, the cold glances, the clipped tone of voice. Had his wife always resented their presence? Or was there a secret she was desperately hiding? The air in the room felt heavier by the second. His wife tried to walk toward him, speaking quickly now, filling the silence with explanations that didn't add up. The girl's eyes followed every movement, silently pleading for him to understand. The millionaire realized he was standing on the edge of something much bigger than he had imagined, something that could tear apart not just his marriage, but the trust that held his household together. The millionaire's pulse quickened as he watched his wife circle the room, her words rushing out like a shield. She insisted the child had misbehaved, that she had only been teaching her discipline, but the cracks in her story were too wide to ignore. The girl's tearful eyes told a truth that words could never cover. The longer he stood there, the clearer it became. This was not a misunderstanding. Something ugly was hiding beneath his wife's polished surface. The silence between each explanation grew heavier, almost unbearable. He glanced at the girl again, noticing how she stepped back whenever his wife raised her voice. It was instinctive, like someone who had learned to expect anger. His stomach twisted. This wasn't the wife he thought he knew, and this wasn't the home he believed he had built. Just then, the door to the kitchen opened, and the maid appeared, carrying a tray. The moment her eyes fell on the scene, the tray slipped from her hands, crashing to the floor. Dishes shattered, echoing through the house. She froze, her face pale as she saw her daughter pressed against the wall. The millionaire turned to her, searching for answers, but the maid's silence spoke volumes. She didn't rush forward, didn't argue, she just stood there, as if this was not the first time she had walked in on something like this. His heart pounded harder. All the threads of doubt, suspicion, and betrayal were tightening into one unbearable knot. The moment of truth was coming, and whatever he chose to do next would change everything. The maid's silence weighed heavier than any words could. The millionaire stepped closer, his voice low but sharp. "How long has this been happening?" he asked. The maid's lips parted, but before she could speak, his wife cut in quickly. her tone defensive, almost desperate. "Don't believe her. She's just trying to turn you against me." Her eyes flickered with something he had never seen before. Mix of fear and anger. As if she knew her control over the story was slipping, the girl clung to her mother now, hiding her face in her skirt, while the maid finally whispered, "Sir, you don't know everything." Her words sent a shiver down his spine. He stared at her, waiting for more, but she hesitated, glancing nervously at his wife, who stood frozen like someone guarding a secret she couldn't afford to lose. Then came the twist he hadn't expected. The maid, with trembling hands, revealed that the child wasn't just her daughter. She carried a connection to this household that the millionaire had never been told about. His wife's expression hardened instantly, her face draining of color. The tension in the room cracked open, revealing layers of betrayal deeper than he could have imagined. Every eye shifted between him, the maid, and his wife. Questions collided in his mind, louder than his pounding heartbeat. Why had his wife hidden this? What truth was powerful enough to keep buried for so long? The walls of his home suddenly felt like a stranger's house, and the real story was only beginning to surface. The room felt like it was holding its breath. The millionaire's eyes locked on the maid, waiting for the truth she had tried so hard to keep hidden. Finally, with her daughter clutching her side, she whispered, "Sir, she didn't want you to know, but my child is yours." The words fell heavy, slicing through the silence. For a moment, the world around him blurred. His wife staggered back, her hand gripping the edge of a chair, as if the ground beneath her had shifted. Memories crashed over him, years of trust, appearances kept, and small details he had overlooked. His wife's sudden hostility toward the girl, the strange tension between the two women, the coldness he sometimes felt in his own marriage. Now, the pieces fell together in one painful truth. His wife's voice cracked through the air, filled with rage and panic. "She's lying. Don't you see? She's trying to destroy us." But the maid's tearful eyes carried no deceit, only exhaustion from years of silence. The child's resemblance, subtle but undeniable, was suddenly clear to him in a way it had never been before. The millionaire drew a deep breath, torn between betrayal and responsibility. Just as the weight of the revelation settled, the maid added one last twist. "I never told you because she threatened me. She said if I spoke, she'd make sure our daughter suffered." The truth exploded like thunder in the quiet room. The millionaire realized this was not only about betrayal but also about power and control. And in that moment, he knew his next move would not just change his marriage, it would decide the future of an innocent child. The millionaire stood in silence, his heart heavy with the weight of everything revealed. His wife's voice trembled with denial, but the truth was already too strong to ignore. He looked at the maid, at the fear in her eyes, and then at the little girl who stood quietly, waiting for someone to protect her. In that moment, he realized his choice was not about saving his pride or his marriage, it was about doing what was right. Turning to his wife, he spoke firmly, his tone leaving no room for argument. "This ends today. No more secrets, no more cruelty." She tried to argue, but the strength in his voice silenced her. The mask she had worn for years finally cracked, and for the first time, he saw her not as the polished woman admired by others, but as someone who had boo.